Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of the Florida Physique Report. I am your host John Hansen and we are broadcasting live from the Powerhouse Gym in downtown Tampa, Florida. Today is October 14th, 2015, and on today's show we are going to have a review of the big Southeastern USA competition that took place last weekend in Orlando. Chris and Allison Eady were the promoters. And it was a really big show because it was a national qualifier, and it's actually one of the last shows out here in the Central District of Florida before the season ends and before the Nationals, which is coming up, I think, in the third weekend in November. So it was a really big show, really high-quality competitors, and we're going to go over the results of that in a minute. Our guest on the show this week is AJ Sims. AJ Sims is from Team Sims, and he's one of the best coaches right now in the Florida area for getting athletes in shape. We've had quite a few athletes that we interviewed over the last few months who have won competitions, and AJ is their coach, and they really praised him for his efforts and said he's the magic man. Danny Reardon is one of them. Danny is working with AJ Sims, and she was in phenomenal shape for the Women's Physique Olympia this year, taking 4th place. And actually there was a couple people in this show that did really well, which I'll mention in a second when we go over the results of the Southeastern USA, and they also had AJ as a coach. So every once in a while we'll have a contest prep coach on the show and ask him, you know, what his secrets are to getting his competitors in shape. So it's going to be interesting to talk to AJ Sims in a minute. This weekend they've got the big Fort Lauderdale Cup taking place, obviously in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's promoted by Shannon Day and Borame Ham, and it's part of Bombshell Fitness, of course, and it's a big show. It's going to be, I was there last year, they had some really good competition, all the amateur events and 2 professional events. They got a pro bikini and a pro men's physique. So I will be taking the trip out to Fort Lauderdale this weekend to check that out. If you want more information on it, it's going to be at the War Memorial Auditorium, the same place where the Southern States is held every year, and it's go to NPC Fort Lauderdale Cup.com. That's NPC Fort Lauderdale Cup.com, and they will give you all the information on the starting times, ticket prices, etc. Alrighty, let's go over the results from the Southeastern USA. Like I said, really good show. I want to talk about the competitors that competed because they had some really high quality competitors this year, as they always do at the show. We'll start with the Masters men's bodybuilding. Roland Tissot Jr., who is a frequent competitor in the Central Florida area, he won the over 60. Wilbert Locke won the over 50, and man, I got to talk about Wilbert Locke. This guy was incredible. I think he's 52 years old, and the guy was big and shredded and full, shredded glutes, unbelievable physique. One of the most impressive over 50 competitors I've seen all year. This guy could really do some damage on the national level. I don't know what his background is or how long he's been competing, or you know, how long or what other. I haven't seen him in any other shows this year, but obviously a very experienced competitor from the looks of his physique. So congratulations to Wilbert Locke. He was really incredible. And then Tony Holbdy won the over 40, and Tony is a client of AJ Sims. And Tony had a great physique, real tall guy, but great symmetry, great shape, and really dialed in. I mean, just perfect. He was full and he was hard. So Tony won the over 40 heavyweight, and since there was no over 40 lightweight, he also won the overall. The teen and novice bodybuilding competitions were won by the same guy, Zachard Egan. And Zachard looked incredible for a teenager. He didn't look like a teenager. He looked like he was in his mid-20s. But another guy with really great physique. Small waist, wide shoulders, sort of short and compact, but great symmetry and good muscle size and good hardness. So again, Zachard, one of the most impressive teenage competitors I've seen all year. I've never seen him before either, so we'll look forward to seeing him in the future. I got to mention Akira Moma in the novice division. Great posing routine, Akira, and good physique. Really good energy on stage, good personality. I don't know how many shows he's done, but he took 5th place because he was a little smooth. But if this guy comes in a little bit harder, I'd like to see him again on stage because, like I said, really good posing routine and real good energy up there. Novice figure went to Sarah Grace. Masters figure over 40 went to Lori Smith, and Lori's coach is Steve Montoni, right out here from the Tampa Powerhouse Gym in downtown Tampa. And Steve told me that Lori has never won an overall before, so this was her first time winning, so congratulations to her. She was in really great condition. Esther Kelly won the over 30 with pretty much straight first. So Esther Kelly, who cleaned up at the Daytona Beach Classic, cleaned up again here, winning the Masters figure. All right, moving on to the novice bikini, another really big division, as it always is. The winner was Biljana Yatuska. And Biljana was a very statuesque competitor. She had to be over 6 feet tall. She just towered over the other competitors. Very beautiful lady. I talked to her online yesterday, and we're going to be having an interview with her at the Fort Lauderdale Cup because she's competing this weekend at the Fort Lauderdale Cup. So we'll get to know a little bit more about Biljana. The novice men's physique went to Hector Calderon, another really good physique, good tight waist, wide shoulders. Masters men's physique went to Joey Wahlberg. Joey, of course, cleaned up at his first show, the Daytona Beach Muscle Classic, a couple weeks ago. And Joey won again here, winning the over 35 division. And there was quite a few competitors in that class. They had 2 women's physique divisions. They had a Masters and an Open, and they were both very competitive. Masters women's physique had 5 competitors. Usually it's hard to get 5 competitors in the Open, so this was really great to see. And the winner was really, really impressive. Lauren Amos. Good posing routine and really good physique, good structure. So she came in shape. In the Open women's physique, Jennifer Keller was the winner. And Jennifer, another really impressive physique. Jennifer also very tall. She had to be about 6 feet tall. She was another one who towered over the competitors. This was like her 9th contest. She actually started off in bikini and then went over to figure, and now she's competing in women's physique, and she looked fantastic. All right, moving on to Masters bikini, Carmen Ferroa. How do you say your name, Carmen?
Ferreiroa.
All right, Carmen took first place in the over 40 and the over 30, so she really cleaned up. She beat 10 other competitors in the over 40 and beat 18 competitors in the over 30. So congratulations to Carmen. She looked fantastic.
Ferreiroa.
We saw Carmen at the Florida State, where she really did well. She also won the Women's Bikini Open in that one, and she cleaned up in the Masters this time at a national qualifier.
Ferreiroa.
All right, women's bodybuilders, they had only one competitor, Bridget Norris. She took first place. In the figure open, Lori Smith, who won the over 40, was the winner in Class A. So congratulations, Lori. She had a good night. Esther Kelly, who won the class over 30, also won Class B, again with pretty much straight first. And she beat out Ashley Castleberry, who won the Hurricane a week ago. So congratulations to Esther Kelly. She just had that right combination of hardness and shape, and she really cleaned up. And then in Class C, Viora Santino was the winner. And Viora, I don't recall ever seeing her compete before, but she had incredible shape, real wide shoulders, small waist, very tall competitor, not in quite top condition. Her conditioning could have been better, but she got 2 first-place votes in the overall compared to Esther, who got 3 first-place votes. So it was a 9-7 score for the overall. So that just goes to show you how good Viara is. If she comes in really good shape next time, with her really good symmetry and shape, she could really take first place easily. And then in Class C, Lisa Campbell was second place. She's right out here in the Powerhouse Gym in Tampa, Florida. She's working really hard. She's going to be going in the Nationals next. Jamie Iboni from Ironclad Physique and his team won the team award. They had a ton of competitors in the show, so congratulations to Jamie. Moving on to the Men's Physique Open, Jamil Estat won the short class. And I've seen Jamil compete several times before. He was in the Naples show in, I believe, May. Really good physique, short competitor, but really good upper body, good chest, good back, almost looks like a bodybuilder, but never had the hardness. And today, his coach also was AJ Sims. Jamil really brought in that conditioning, and he credited AJ for that win. He beat out Joey Wahlberg, who took second place. That was a 1-point decision, very close, but congratulations to Jamil Estat. And Hector Calderon, who won the novice men's physique, was in third place. So that was a really good class. Moving on to the medium class, Ryan Howard was in first place. Greg McBride, who won the Hurricane last weekend, he took second place. And Cho Nudaforcho was in third place. And to show you how close this class was, Cho Nudaforcho actually got more first place votes than either Greg McBride or Ryan Howard. But because of the scoring with all the other judges, Ryan Howard ended up first, Greg second, and Cho Nudaforcho ended up third. So it was really close between those 3 guys. Sly Gora was the winner in the tall class. That was a big class, 12 competitors. And then in the overall, Jamil Estat won the overall. Not only won his class, but he won the overall. So congratulations to Jamil. He was very, very happy. Moving on to men's bodybuilding open, Jude Green was the winner in the bantamweight class. He was the only competitor in that class. Lightweight class went to Roosevelt Woodward, and Roosevelt had a really thick physique, older competitor, but he's got the mature muscle. Middleweight class went to a very good competitor who I'd never seen before, Pablo Sandino. And Pablo has been living out here in the Florida area for about 4 years, and his coach is George Farah, and George really brought him in condition, man. He had a great symmetry, great shape, and really conditioned. Theodore Atkins was in second place, and Theodore was also really impressive. This guy looks like a national level competitor. Great legs, good posing routine, real good thickness overall. Just got beat by a better, little more conditioned competitor this time than Pablo. And then Michael Crows in third place was also really impressive. I got to mention him. Real wide shoulders on Michael, smaller waist. Just really good competitors in this class, in the middleweight class. Light heavyweight went to our friend from the over 50 division, Wilbert Locke, who cleaned up and won the open. He beat all the young guys, but the way Wilbert looks, it's not surprising. He was in incredible condition, especially for someone 52 years old. Heavyweight class went to our over 40 winner, Tony Holbdy, and second place was Luke Shearer. He was in really good shape. And Lortson Jonasaint, who I believe won the overall at the Hurricane Bay last year. I've seen Lortson compete several times since then. He always alternates between doing men's physique and bodybuilding. He also did men's physique today at this show in the Southeastern, and I think he did third or fourth. But he looks more like a bodybuilder. This guy's got a great physique, really conditioned, hard glutes, just one of those naturally lean guys, and the muscles just pop. So once he continues to put on a little more size, and he's got a big structure, Lortson's going to do really well. In the super heavyweights, Daniel Alfonso, who I also seen compete several times before, including at last year's Nationals. Daniel's got a really good physique, good symmetry, and good thickness, really good deltoids. He won first place, almost all straight first, over Eric Diffenderfer from Team Freak Physique. Eric got back up on stage again. He was on stage earlier this year, I believe in the spring. So congratulations to Eric. He looked really good. And then finally, we move on to the Bikini Open. That was our last class. Nanette Metafort won Class A over 12 competitors. I've seen Nanette compete before in the Southern Florida region. Carolyn Mestre won Class B, and Carolina, I should say, hasn't competed in about a year. So she took some time off, got her head together, came back. Her attitude was great, and this is by far the best I ever seen her. So the rest really did her good. Her physique was really shapely, really hard. Incredible condition, so congratulations to Carolina. Christiana Bush was Class C winner, and then Biasa Analia won Class D. Biasa I saw compete also, I believe, at the Sunset Classic earlier this year, and she looked really good, much improved over the contest earlier in the year. She beat out Bilana Yotaska, who was our novice winner, by only 1 point, so that was a very close decision. And then in the overall, it was also right down to the wire. Carolina and Biasa, our Class D winner, actually tied for the overall, and they broke the tie by a 3-2 vote, and Carolina won the overall. So that was as close as it gets, folks. So congratulations to all the competitors. That was a great competition. Like I said, really quality competition. It's always good to see quality competitors. As the Nationals gets closer, these competitors are really gearing up, and all the really top-level, national-level competitors are coming out of the woodwork. All right, we're going to take a break here from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have our interview with AJ Sims from Team Sims. AJ's been bringing in all the competitors in the Florida area in top shape, including, like I said, Danny Reardon. So we're going to have a great conversation with AJ Sims. So stay with the Florida Physique Report. We'll be right back. Check out NFE All Natural Warrior Supplements, featuring pure isolate protein made with natural stevia flavor, 1 gram of sugar and no fat. NFE Trim Thermogenic Fat Burner, boosts your metabolism,
suppress your appetite, build strength, develop muscle, and shed that body fat. Go to NFE.com today.
NFE stands for No Freaking Excuses.
All right, welcome back to the Florida Physique Report, and my special guest this week is AJ Sims, and AJ is one of the top contest prep coaches, especially out here in the Florida area. Everybody I talk to at these interviews I do every week, they all say they work with AJ. So welcome to the show, AJ.
Thanks for having me, John. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into doing contest prep coaching. I know this is a big thing now. A lot of people are doing it. Some people are more successful than others. Sure. So what was your background? How did you get into that?
Well, you know, I was really fortunate actually to how I came about even in the sport of bodybuilding. By the time I was 16 years old, I was living in Las Vegas. And in my mind, that was not the golden era for you, but the golden era for me when it was Ronnie and Jay. So I already had a pretty close connection with Jay and was already a really good friend of his moving out there. We became training partners, actually. Okay. When I was 16 years old, I used to train on and off with him during his Olympia preps and his off season. So at 16 years old, I was able to soak up, some valuable information, not only about bodybuilding, but the business of bodybuilding. So learning from Jay and other greats out there like Tony Pearson, I'm sure you know who that is.
Yeah.
Frank Hillenbrand, he passed away a couple years ago, but I was able to train with him. He actually helped me for one of my teen nationals. So just many, Diana Dennis, who's a great female bodybuilder from the 90s. So all these great old school, very knowledgeable, helpful people helped me throughout my teenage career. So I was able to learn a lot from them. So that was the beginning. I actually started prepping people around 18 years old. I'd already been competing for about 5 years by then. So, still wet behind the ears, still a lot to learn, still have a lot to learn today, but it was something I was pretty good at doing. I could look at somebody, kind of assess what they needed to eat, training style, slow down, speed it up, whatever the case may be, and make those decisions pretty much on the fly. I don't have never have a set plan for an individual. I never lay out the whole week for an individual. For a competitor, especially when we get closer, we go day by day. So, like I said, I use my eye. I'm not one of those body fat guys where I clip you for body fat. I don't go by that. I simply use the old school, look at you, see what you're looking like, what's your body weight, and then we make changes based off that.
You said when you were 18, you had already been competing 5 years? You were competing at 13?
I did my first show at 13 years old. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I never heard anybody competing that young.
I weighed about $140 on stage, but it was, and Ronnie Coleman was the guest poser.
Oh, really?
Well, I think he was about 320 pounds at that time. So Matt, I'm 13 years old. I weigh 140 pounds, and I'm looking at this massive, probably honestly, he's the biggest bodybuilder I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
most muscular, densest guy. So yeah, it got me hooked. It got me started, and I got bit by the bug, and haven't looked back since.
So what's your approach to helping clients? Because I talked to a couple of people this last weekend at the Southeastern USA. One of them was Jamil Estat, who won the Men's Physique Open, and I had seen Jamil compete before. I saw him at the Naples show, and sometimes he'll win his class. He's had I remember he had a big upper body, almost like a bodybuilder's upper body. Real big chest, big back from the back.
Very much so.
He just never could win the overall, and he was really ecstatic because he finally won his first overall, and he couldn't stop talking about you. And he said that when he was training with you, as the contest got closer, you actually had him stop doing cardio.
Yeah, not everybody's that fortunate, unfortunately. But Jamil's one of those cases where we're pretty much right out the gate we started the diet pretty hard. The cardio, I'm a big believer in high intensity cardio. I'm not a big believer in 2 hours, 3 hours of cardio. I look at it like you take a look at a sprinter and they're very muscular. You look at a long distance runner, obviously emaciated. We're training for two different things. Not that I don't believe in low intensity or moderate cardio, but I think there's a time and a place. So I put Jamil on high intensity cardio. I think the most cardio he did was 20 minutes in the morning and 12 minutes in the evening. So 32 minutes total. That was the highest he got. And then eventually we did absolutely no cardio. I'm a big believer, and this is the old school mentality, the Arnold days, in training 7 days a week. I would rather someone train more and do less cardio. I feel like guys don't train enough. anymore. I feel like they want to get in and get out, which is fine. You know, you should use your time wisely, but there's nothing wrong with high frequency and high volume of training. I feel like if you're going to train intense, all out, you know, get to the point where you're pushing past failure, which a lot of guys don't do anymore because it just hurts way too much. And you're doing that with a high frequency, you're going to burn a lot of fat just by training.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have someone do that than do a, you know, crazy amount of cardio.
So when you look at a competitor, like if you looked at Jamil at how he looked at his other shows, can you tell like what he would need to be better just by looking at him on stage?
Yeah, I mean, Jamil, you know, I actually hooked up with Jamil 6 days out from the Europa earlier this year, so I only had 6 days with him. He took second in his class, and then we won the Bonita. He won his class, which was kind of a weaker class, but he still won. But I told him that we needed to improve on conditioning. So I said if he gave me a full 10-week prep, which he did this time, that we would nail the conditioning, and we did. And it was just a conditioning thing for him. Jamil is, as you said, even though he weighs 145 pounds on stage, he's very, very, very thickly muscled. Yeah. Especially in the chest and the back area. So I knew, you know, and he has a nice small tapered waist too. So all we needed to do was bring him in, you know, proper condition, you know, thin skin, you know, just enough for men's physique, and I thought he would do very, very well. And I mean, he won the overall. It was a pretty stacked men's physique lineup there.
Yeah, that was a big contest.
Yeah, definitely great for him, and I think he's going to have a good future in this class, if not a classic physique down the road.
Right. Do you look at their macros when you design a diet for them? Do you set up a diet with the calories and protein, carbs, fats all laid out?
When I first design a layout for somebody, first of all, they have to fill out a questionnaire. I have to know what they've been doing. I have to know what they did prior to coming to me, if they dieted for a show, supplementation, training, I need to know every single last little bit of what they're doing, and then I will map out a plan. And when I map out a plan, I start with, when I write out a plan, ounces and grams of food. And then once it's written out, then I write out the macros. I don't start with numbers first. And it's really weird I'm like that. But it's how I've been doing things since day one. It's just something that I'm used to doing it like that. It's different. You know, it's definitely a unique style. The most important thing that I found out since I started doing more business with my fiance Nikki, who's a women's physique competitor, she used to work at Life Extension down south and in Miami. They're really big on food safe allergy tests. So I started researching that. I talked to a lot of doctors, spoke with her. We sat down with them, and we actually recommend that to every single athlete we prep, because, you know, just because a bodybuilding friendly food of brown rice, oatmeal, you know, your broccoli, your egg white, that doesn't mean your body's going to utilize it, digest it, and be able to perform at its highest you know, point. So you need to be utilizing foods that your body can digest and utilize properly. A lot of people find out they're allergic to oatmeal. A lot of people find out they're allergic to chicken. They get a little bit of bloat and water retention when they eat these foods. So we need to find out what foods work for you the best. And that's how we set up a diet, first and foremost.
That's interesting.
Little different style.
So you're known as the conditioning specialist. Like you had a competitor, Jose Suarez, who was I believe he's a lightweight or a bantamweight, right?
Yeah, he's a lightweight, Jose.
Yeah, and he won 2 overalls this year. He won the Mid-Florida, and he won, what was the other one he won?
He won the Bonita show, too.
The Bonita, right. And so for a lightweight to win the overall, especially twice, and that was pretty much all conditioning. So what do you do to get these guys so ripped? And I know I saw you compete before, and you're the same way. You come in really, really shredded.
Sure. I think what it comes down to is when I start feeling small in clothes, I don't pull back. Right. And I tell all my guys, you don't compete with your clothes on. So, you know, getting down to that point is it's a lot of suffering. You know, it's there's nothing magical that I do. I don't put these guys on magical supplements. It's just, you know, I try to convince them, don't worry so much. I mean, we use the scale as somewhat of a guide, but it's not the end all be all. You know, when a guy comes to, I'm sure you've heard it over, you know, you've been in bodybuilding forever. You know, a guy says, I want to weigh this on stage. This is my goal. That's the first mistake you can make, because you don't know what it's going to look like. Your goal should be the most conditioned you can possibly be, with some fullness too. I always tell people that I would rather than be 100% conditioned with 80% fullness rather than 80% conditioned and 100% fullness. It's always my goal to be ripped to shreds. I mean, I feel like that's bodybuilding, you know, along with symmetry and proportions and beauty and flow of the physique too. So yeah, it's just, you know, learning how to have these guys ready early. I want everybody ready 2 weeks out, and that way we can cruise into the contest. Sometimes we eat up into the show. Sometimes we do no cardio. And we don't do any carb ups. We don't do any depletions. We don't do any sodium deplete, and we don't water deplete.
Right.
So that's how guys, you know, are able to step on stage full vascular. They get a pump backstage. No athlete I have cramps.
Okay.
So
yeah, I was going to ask you how you prevent them from flattening out if they're really going for that conditioning, but I think you just sort of answered it. You try to get them ready 2 weeks before, and then you can sort of play with it and then maybe increase it and stuff.
My method of what I do, as well as my fiance with the women, when someone will send us a check-in, pictures, weight, if that person has lost too much weight over the last 2 days, 3 days, whatever, we may say no cardio for the next few days. We may give them a specific refeed, not saying go eat whatever you want or go have a burger and fries. We absolutely do not do that. It is specific amount of carbohydrates at a specific time, utilized properly so that your body can digest it, utilize it, soak it up. And typically someone will either wake up the same weight or a little less weight, but the muscle's fuller because glycogen has been filled up. So that's the whole goal at the end of the day. You know, that's what we want. If someone has a little residual weight gain and some water retention, well, in the next 2 or 3 days, that's gone. They actually look better. So like I said, it's a day-to-day change when we prep people. You know, if someone's 16 weeks out, we'll make a change week by week. When we get to about 8 or 10 weeks out, then we start going to every 2 days. And then by the time we're 6 weeks out, we change things every day.
Yeah. Another thing you said that was interesting was you said you don't mess with the carbs, you don't mess with the, you know, the water, the sodium the last few days. And I've been seeing that, you know, I've talked to a few people just this year alone who didn't use the contest prep coach, and they did a couple shows and they messed up. And it was because they cut their water, or because they, you know, were trying to do those manipulations at the last minute. And it just seems like, especially with the water, when they cut the water like that, it just seems like it flattens them out all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody has to remember that 70% of the water is inside the muscle cell. So 30% of it's subcutaneous. What people are trying to do is pull that 30% out to get the quote-unquote dry look. What they don't realize they're doing is they're pulling the intracellular water out of the muscle as well, so they're going to be flat. And when the muscle's not pushing against the skin, you're going to look flat and you're going to look soft, as you know. So typically I get an athlete used to drinking 2 to 2.5 gallons of water, sometimes 3 a day. Jose was drinking 3 gallons of water a day because he works outside during the summertime, and those shows were in the summertime. So imagine, he's working outside all day. He's excreting fluids and electrolytes. So 3 gallons of water was typical for him. He drank 3 gallons of water the day before the show. Wow. And he was dry as could be because he was waking up dry. The fat was gone, and his body is excreting it, you know, all through the night. He would lose about 8 to 9 pounds every night, which is another thing that we do. We take your AM and PM weight, and we figure out how much water weight you're losing throughout the night. And that gives us a good indication of the kind of diuresis that your body's doing through the night by excreting water, how much you're doing. So that's what we would do with Jose. He'd wake up dry as a bone every morning. So I said, Jose, why are we going to change anything? We're going to cruise right into this show, and we're not touching anything. And, he was ready, and he, you know, the outcome, I guess, was pretty good. Yeah.
Now, is everybody different? I'm assuming that everybody would be different as far as, you know, because I know some people don't take carbs as well, and like you were just talking about the allergies. Some people, you know, will be allergic to oatmeal of all things, you know, and they'll be retaining water from that. So do you figure that out as you're going through the contest prep with them?
Absolutely, absolutely. Here's a great case of a gentleman, you know, Paul Southern, who is a Masters competitor. I got a hold of Paul earlier this year, and we almost finally got his pro card. He got second place at Masters Nationals over 50. Paul's an individual that can't drink 3 gallons of water a day. His body's not able to, you know, excrete it. So he's 1.5 gallons of water a day. Interesting enough, though, his metabolism is that of a 16-year-old. I have to feed that. I have to give him a refeed every 3 to 4 days, or he will lose way too much weight. And he only does 15, 20 minutes of cardio a day. And then we have some individuals that have to do, you know, your typical 30, 45 minutes in the morning, and then another session sometimes at night with a lower carbohydrate diet. So, I mean, every individual is different. Some people, you know, I'm known for giving people muffins and refeed. Some people don't get that, though. So people will actually write us an email and say, I want to work with you guys because I want muffins and refeeds and do no cardio. But, you know, that's not in stone. We don't know if that's what you're going to get. Our goal is to get everybody in the best shape possible. So by any means necessary, as long as it's healthy, that's the goal.
Yeah. Now, you worked with Danny Reardon also this year, and she did really, really well at the Olympia, got 4th place in her very first Olympia, which was amazing.
Sure.
When you looked at her and you started working with her, what did you think she needed to do in order to do really good?
Yeah, conditioning, one word. Danny came to us. She had just competed at the St. Louis Pro earlier this year and got a very disappointing 3rd place finish for her because Danny should be 4th in the Olympia. That's where she should be. She should be top 5 at the Olympia. And she was disappointed, and she didn't know what to do next. And somebody linked her up with me. She sat down with me and my fiance for quite a while, and we talked about it and our plans. And I told her if she does everything that we tell her to do, she's going to be on the Olympia stage. She didn't believe it at first, of course, but I said, you're going to win your first pro show, and you'll be on the Olympia stage. She, you know, her physique should be. It's incredible. She has an incredible physique.
Yeah.
But she could not nail the conditioning, and she was also doing those crazy last week protocols. Sodium deplete, sodium load, water deplete, water load, potassium, diuretics, carb loads, eating pancakes the morning of the show. And it turns out to be a total mess, you know, for her. Some people can do that. And there's some people that have actually had some success doing that, and they show up in great shape. But, you know, then you have to look at the percentages. How many come in shape doing that and how many people don't? So what's the smarter route? You know, what's the smarter route to go? So yeah, she won the Louisiana show and then rolled into the Olympia and was, you know, probably the most conditioned person on that stage.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very happy with her. Yeah.
Now, you had a guy in the show last week also, Tony Holdy, who won the over 40, and he went into the Open and won his class there. Really good physique, good structure, tall guy. What did you need to do with him when you were getting him ready?
Tony's a great guy. He's a great family man, 2 children, and he works a lot. So he was 3 days out. He was, you know, mowing yards because he owns a landscaping business. Not something I would like you to do 3 days out from a show. I'd much rather you be eating the food, digesting it, utilizing it, relaxing your legs. But yeah, he's a hardworking family man. So really, with Tony, really tall physique. Some of his muscle is a little oddly shaped. You know, his legs are a little different shaped. His arms can be shaped a little differently. But really, Tony was just about being, you know, in good condition with fullness. Tony has been doing Southeasterns for 4 years, I believe. And he came to me and he said, I want to win my class and at least try to fight for the overall. And I said, well, we'll do it, you know, and, you know, the results were good. So, you know, Tony has a great physique, and for some reason he wants to win the Southeastern. So I think he's going to try it again next year.
Okay.
That's his Olympia, I think.
Now, AJ, do you help him with the training too? Is that part of it, or is it just the diet?
It's optional, but I do, for the most part, when people come to me. I've designed about 20 training programs over the years of, like I said, learning from all the greats. You know, I used to go to Venice Beach Gold's Gym a lot too and train with Charles Glass as a teenager too. So I've had a lot of blessings and advantages over a lot of people being able to be on the West Coast, I believe. Yeah. And be around all those greats. And I soaked up everything. I have journals from 10 years ago. I wrote everything down that anyone would tell me, share with me, even if it was the most minute thing, you know, and I still refer back to that, you know. So, you know, definitely, like I said, it's been a blessing to learn from all those greats. So yeah, training is definitely in there. My training style is very, very intense. I'm a huge believer in, you know, training, you know, with the most intensity that you can possibly train with, past failure, beyond failure, as long as your body's recovering properly. You know, and you're getting enough rest and nutrients in, you know, especially if you're a young guy. Mm-hmm. There's no reason not to. There's no reason not to. You know, everyone's afraid of overtraining. I'm going to overtrain. You more than likely you're undertraining. More than likely you're not pushing it hard enough. If you're not on the floor, you know, gasping for air after you train legs, well, you didn't train legs hard enough. And that's just truly, you know, just what I believe. And a lot of guys I'm sure would argue. I do believe in periodization, you know, making sure that you're taking a specific amount of rest time after like an 8 or 10 week training cycle.
Yeah.
Making sure that your body, your central nervous system is you know, getting well rested. I'm a big believer in time under tension. So, for example, if someone's doing a set of leg press, I'm a big believer, instead of loading it with a maximum amount of weight and doing, you know, 4 or 6 reps, why not extending that set for a minute? You know, do more moderate weight and do 20 to 25 reps. You know, push past failure. You know, put the muscle under tension as long as you possibly can for the most maximal amount of stimulation.
Right.
So that's, you know, like that, like I said, that's what I refer back to. That's what I was taught when I was younger, and I still believe it to this day. And I think a lot of guys too also throw around weights too much. I don't think they're contracting, they're stimulating properly.
Yeah.
I see a lot of guys do half reps, you know, instead of getting a full range of motion. Yeah, you should keep the muscle under tension, but doing 2-inch dumbbell presses is not going to do a whole lot for development.
Yeah.
So,
what would you recommend to like a women's figure or bikini competitor, or even a bodybuilder, who is maybe older and they can't like get their glutes in shape? Because that's such a big, especially for the women's events like the bikini or women's physique, or not women's physique, but figure. That, you know, some women just hold more fat in that area, and what would you recommend just to get that down?
I get this question a lot. I guess I'm known for the shredded glutes with people and for myself, so I do get this question quite often. I think number one is development. I think a lot of people don't train their glutes directly enough. Let's say this all the time. 2 is going to be body fat. They just don't get lean enough.
Yeah.
But development is the number one thing. So what I have competitors do, usually when we start during a prep, and even sometimes in progression season, aka off season, is train glutes specifically. I'm a huge believer in Jefferson squats, made famous by Kai Green, abduction, glute kickbacks, stiff-legged deadlifts with a sumo stance, and we are just directly hitting those glutes as much as possible. Now, during a prep, I'll have people do that 3 times a week. So they're hitting those movements 3 to 4 times a week at 15 to 20 reps, squeezing, flexing, contracting. I tell them when they walk up a flight of stairs, squeeze your glutes like you're on the stair mill. Just do absurd things. Always keep in the back of your mind mind-muscle connection. Squeeze, 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 flex, pose. You know, and the results have been great so far. You know, and of course, like I said, getting lean is the number 2 thing. You got to get lean enough, but you have to have development. If you don't have development, then your glutes aren't going to look good once you lose all the body fat. You'll just have a, you know, pancake butt. So, so development is key. So yeah, again, that's where my old school mentality of training frequency comes in. You know, you got to train them. You got to train them.
Right.
As long as they're recovering.
Now, with that cardio, you said you believe more in the interval training. Is there certain types of cardio equipment you like better, or?
Spin bike. I'm a huge Wingate spin bike fan. I believe in doing, you know, 15, 20 second all out crazy psychotic speed, and then slowing down for 35, 40 seconds and repeating that for, you know, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. Is what I have people do. What I find out, though, is a lot of clients that first come to us, they don't do it properly, so we have them take video of themselves so we can critique it. Because those kind of, you know, that cardio should be so intense that, you're laying on the floor after and you need 5 or 10 minutes before you can recover from it.
Now, how do you incorporate that with the weight training? Are they doing that on separate days, or are they doing it at a separate time?
Sometimes, you know, depending on the person's schedule, in a perfect world, the cardio is done after the first meal. I don't really believe in fasted cardio. You actually get more of a fat burning over a 24-hour period after a meal. Your body's more thermogenic. Studies have actually shown that. I'm not just BSing about that. So, so usually after the first meal, and then I believe that you should get, you know, you go to work or whatever you're doing for, you know, 6 to 8 hours, get a couple more meals in, hydrate, and then you go weight train. If the person has to do a second round of cardio, that's done post-workout. Okay.
Now we're coming toward the end of the season. Do you have anybody you're working with that is getting ready for any of the shows coming up that you want to talk about?
Right now I have IFBB Pro Lionel Brown getting ready for Rigno Classic in 6 weeks. Lionel has been on the pro scene for 10 to 12 years and never, ever been in condition. Very, very thickly muscled, 250 pounds right now. And all it comes down to is getting him in condition. So I'm excited about him. He's a great guy. loads of potential. Danny, I believe, is, I don't know 100%, but I believe she's going to do the Arnold Classic. Women's physique. Al Augusti is not going to be doing anything until later in the season next year. And have a couple national level competitors doing nationals in Miami, which is exciting. Really, really good competitors that you'll see down there. And yeah, you know, just getting ready for next year. When someone comes to us, we always tell them that the progression season is what we call it instead of off season. We're trying to progress. We're always prepping for contest prep. We're getting your body geared up to get ready for a show.
Yes.
And what we mean by that is we're increasing your metabolic capacity. We're trying to feed you as much food as possible while maintaining, you know, a decent amount of body fat, still staying lean, but getting your body to utilizing as much food as possible so that when we get deep into a contest prep, you're not starving on 0 carbs or 30 grams of carbs. Your body is a low carb day for people are 150 grams of carbs or 200 grams of carbs, or not doing a ton of cardio. We still incorporate HIIT cardio in the off season. You know, I think guys get way too out of shape now because they want to be 300 pounds in the off season, but they wind up just being 215 pounds on stage. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, again, a more old school mentality, 20, 25 pounds for a male off season and 10 to 15 pounds for a female.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be killing yourself, you know, and you're going to lose muscle in the process.
They talk about that all the time now with all the shows, especially the pro shows, even like the top amateur shows like the Nationals or USA. That's just the comments you see all the time is that these guys aren't conditioned like they used to be, like in the 90s. Do you think that's because of the drugs they're using or because they're just, you know, the training styles, the diet?
Well, I'm glad we could be open about that because I absolutely believe that it has to do with a lot of the drugs that they are using. I think guys, again, because they want to be so full. I always want to be full, so they're relying on insulin. You know, and insulin obviously, you know, for you know, you have to consult your doctor first. But of course, insulin is the most powerful anabolic hormone within the body as a shuttling agent. It also, in my mind, is going to allow you to not come into your peak condition. I don't believe, because I think guys are just stuffing carbs and utilizing insulin way too much. And I'll give you a perfect example. 2004, Jay Cutler got second to Ronnie Coleman. And if you guys remember, that was one of Jay's biggest looks ever. I think he was a 275, 280, but his conditioning was very lackluster. And that's because he was eating 1,000 grams of carbs a day, and of course he was utilizing that. He was big and full, but he wasn't conditioned. And Ronnie, you know, and I know Ronnie uses obviously too. They all use it. It's all fair, you know, playing ground. But it's you know, some guys cannot react and respond to that properly, and it would just go flat and be as shredded and dry as hard as possible. Because if again you look at the guys in the 90s, take a Sean Ray. Take Flex Wheeler from the 1993 Arnold Classic, which in my mind is one of the greatest physiques ever. Graced the stage. Those guys were coming in shredded, peeled, you know, they were dialed in. And they were not utilizing everything that we use today because they simply didn't have those things. So I always say the 90s, man, these guys got to get back to that condition. They got to get back to that condition and just stop worrying about being the biggest guy on stage. So I have a guy right now, Ryan Paderaki, who's going to be getting ready for the Europa next year, and he's always one of the bigger guys on stage, and he's 300 pounds right now. And I told him that, you know, he's probably going to be lighter than he normally is next year because I'm going to make sure he's in condition. You know, and he's like, fine, I'm going to just let my ego go, and, you know, whatever you say goes, I want to be shredded, you know. So I just think, again, the problem today is, I got to be big. Debates with people over this, and you know this, John, because you're a bodybuilding purist. You know, when you get that big, your lines they look distorted. They look distorted. Your waist is blown out, and then you just look like a chemical experiment, and it doesn't look good on stage.
I'm editing a video I did with an interview I did with Mike Quinn right now, and I was using footage of him from when he won the 1987 NPC USA, and even the physiques back then. You know, I was looking at the overall lineup. You know, you had John Aranita and Daryl Stafford and then Mike Quinn. It was like, God, they all look great. They weren't as big as the guys today, but they all look, you know, they had great lines, ripped.
Better overall physiques, and if you remember those days, and you remember them clearly, those lineups were so stacked. They're so deep. I mean, the guy in 7th, 8th place was incredible. You know, and you can, if you recall, then I believe it was the 1991 Nationals where you had Paul DeSeo, Ronnie Coleman. You don't see that anymore. You just don't see it anymore. And you got to ask yourself why. Why don't you see that anymore? You know, maybe there's one or two guys that stand out, but I mean, we're talking about the whole top 5, top 6. I believe Matt Mendenhall got 5th place that year, and he had an incredible physique.
I know. Well, even this video I'm editing, the 87 USA, the top 5 in the heavyweights all turned pro.
Yeah.
Johnny Moran, Aaron Clark.
I wasn't even born back then. I study bodybuilding. I've been a fan of bodybuilding since the day I started, and I've always referred back to the late 80s, early 90s. And to me, that's bodybuilding.
Yeah.
That's bodybuilding. And even the Arnold days, because, you know, these guys had pure classic physiques and they weren't just chemical, you know, looks and just blown out. And it's just not a good look. And you know, unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to get back to the way it should be. But I must say that's why the 212 class attracts me so much, because there's still a lot of good guys in there that have these really, really pretty physiques. Not all of them, but there's still, you know, like if you take those Koreans, for example, that did it. I think one of the guys weighed 176 pounds and just a beautiful physique. Beautiful.
Yeah. Speaking of classical lines, what do you think of this new division coming up next year, the classical physique? I know a lot of people are really excited about that. A lot of people are interested in that. I talked to a lot of men's physique guys or bodybuilders who are on the fence, and they're all excited about doing it.
Well, it's a great option for two reasons. For men's physique guys that are a little bit too big, they get to move up to that. And for bodybuilders that don't want to, you know, push the limit and be this unhealthy, distorted version of themselves, can shrink down and look athletic and classic and have the lines and the proportions that they want. And it's a much marketable look. You know, if classic physique grows, I mean, these shows might go on until 3 in the morning, which I'm not looking forward to. But
unless everybody switches over and goes, you know, from one division to another.
Yeah, exactly. But I think overall, I think for guys like me and you who are just purists of bodybuilding, I think we're going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing like the posing, because I know a lot of the guys are talking about the posing. I just had a men's physique guy approach me yesterday and asked me if I could help him with his posing, because obviously he's never done posing, being men's physique.
Sure.
So maybe they'll bring back some of that classical posing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if we can have a class where it's like you got Frank Zane on stage, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fantastic. And it's so much more marketable. And you know, someone coming up in the sport can look at it and say, you know what, that's obtainable for me. Yeah. I can get like that. You come up in the sport and you look at Big Ramy and it's like, I mean, why even bother? Why you're not going to look like that, so why try?
Right. And I think that's why, you know, I think I've talked about this on the show before too, is that's why some of the teenage divisions have really dropped off, because you don't get a lot of young kids that say, I want to look like that. You know, it's just too unattainable.
I did my first teen nationals in 2006, and the light heavyweight class had 25 kids in it. Today, maybe like 6.
Yeah.
So it's sad to see that, you know, because I think when I was coming into the teen nationals, that's when the last couple good years were happening. And then, not to say that the teen competitors haven't been great, but they're not deep like they used to be.
No, not at all.
I remember a lot of the kids that I competed with, you know, I competed with Aaron Clark at teen nationals. I competed with Mitch Stats, who just turned pro at the North Americans and just pro debut. So, you know, they were stacked. Those classes were stacked. And I think that's why it is dying, because you're 15 years old and you're looking at these magazines. What am I going to do? You know, you understand. And with all the information on the internet, you know, and you have those personalities that say, oh, you know, you're 16, it's time to push drugs. And, you know, that's going to turn somebody off immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. But if you have a guy that's like a Frank Zane, and how much did Frank weigh on stage? 180s?
185, yeah.
I mean, that's obtainable. I mean, maybe not to have his symmetry and proportions, but that 185 is very obtainable. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be healthier, and I think it's going to give teenagers a better opportunity to compete.
Right. All right, AJ, well, thank you for joining us on the show. How can people reach you if they want to work with you?
Okay, well, you can contact me and my fiance at teamsimsofficial@gmail.com.
Okay.
You can Facebook me at AJ Sims or The Real Team Sims on Instagram. You can follow us, like us, share our pictures. And I want to say it's a pleasure, John. Like I always say, man, you're a legend in my mind. I remember reading your articles on bodybuilding.com when I was 15 years old. So it's cool. You know, life comes around for full circle, kind of, you know. Appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I like doing the show with you and Taylor on ProjectBodybuilding.com. That was a great time.
Ready to come back, brother. We'd love to have you.
All right. All right. Thanks, AJ. And I'll see you around at the shows, I'm sure. And good luck with all your clients.
I'll be seeing you around, John.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Okay, buddy.
All right, that's it for the Florida Physique Report, episode number 45. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to AJ Sims for joining us as our guest this week. Next week, we will have report of the Fort Lauderdale Cup. I'll have all the pictures and the full results next week on the Florida Physique Report. So join us then. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week.